I didn't see Putin for 3 years, and many of them were speaking to him secretly. And I know at least 2 big leaders that were speaking secretly to him. Because, of course, I still have my friends in Kremlin and in some other countries as well. And I didn't do it for a single time. I'll see him on 9th of May after 3.5 years.
Wow.
Which means that we are very sincere, very honest, and very loyal to what we say. We do what we say, which is not always the fact with the others, just for you to know.
Because Prime Minister Orban and Fico, who...
It's not Orban and Fico, it's many others. It was Nehammer as well, it was many others.
But they were open in meeting President Putin. You did not meet him for 3.5 years.
I didn't meet him.
For 2.5 years.
I didn't meet him for 3 years.
This is my video update on this Wednesday midday, April the 2nd. Coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the new narrative coming from the collective West on Project Ukraine. And the new narrative is that Putin is stalling. Damn it, Putin, why are you stalling? Why is Putin stalling? Well, what is he stalling? He is stalling a ceasefire. That is what he is stalling. An unconditional ceasefire. Putin refuses to agree to an unconditional ceasefire, says the European Union, says Zelensky, says the Neocon crowd in the Trump White House, says Annalena 360. Yes, Putin is stalling. He is stalling because he will not agree to an unconditional ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. The Europeans, they back up Ukraine and an unconditional ceasefire. Waltz, Kellogg, Rubio, they're saying that an unconditional ceasefire is great. Trump is getting frustrated because Putin will not agree to an unconditional ceasefire. Unconditional ceasefire. No conditions. Just ceasefire and do whatever you guys want, collective West in Ukraine. Just do whatever you want. Pour in more weapons, pour in more money. Macron, Stammer, send in the troops, create a no-fly zone. Unconditional ceasefire. Oh my God. But that's the narrative. Putin is stalling because he won't accept an unconditional ceasefire. When in history has the side that is winning the war agreed to an unconditional ceasefire? Just like that, an unconditional ceasefire. They're winning the war. They're about to defeat Ukraine. They're about to defeat all of NATO, the EU, the United States. Russia's about to defeat all of these guys that waged war on Russia in order to remove the Putin administration and to break the country apart. And they're now going to agree to an unconditional ceasefire. When has that ever happened in history? The winning side agreeing to this type of stuff. Oh my God. Oh my God. So Annalena was in Kiev, and she said, "It is Putin who is stalling for time, does not want peace, and continues his aggressive war. He imitates a willingness to negotiate, but does not retreat an inch from his goals. Because of the deadlock in relations between the US and Russia, it is extremely important for us Europeans to show that we support Ukraine without any ifs or buts, and that we support it now more than ever." That is what Annalena 360 said in Ukraine as she is on her Annalena German Foreign Minister farewell tour. Tickets available at 1-800 Annalena 360. Or you can go to Annalena720i.com to purchase your tickets to the Annalena 360 farewell tour. Opening act, Jungle Joseph Burrell. Oh, man. You know, never mind the fact that Russia has played this very straight in terms of getting to some sort of a negotiated settlement. They've played it very straight. They spelled out their terms in June 2024. Putin spelled out the exact terms for a negotiation for settlement on June 2024 at the Russian Foreign Ministry. Istanbul Plus root causes speech that he gave, and we've talked about those terms many times. And those terms back in June are very generous terms if you take a look at what's happening on the ground in Ukraine on the front lines. Because if the Trump administration refuses to accept those terms, if the collective West refuses to accept those terms and continues to play this propaganda game of Russia is stalling and they refuse to accept an unconditional ceasefire, so we need to continue to escalate. If they continue to play this game, then those terms from June 2024 are going to get much worse for Ukraine. It's very windy. The chair's blowing away. They're going to get much worse for Ukraine, and in 3 months' time, the Trump administration is going to be wishing that they had those June 2024 terms. Anyway, let's talk about some of the statements coming out of Moscow. The deputy foreign minister, Sergei Ryabkov, he gave an interview yesterday, and Ryabkov, he said that Russia cannot agree to these unconditional ceasefire terms. Ryabkov actually said that Russia hasn't even seen any signal from Trump to Kiev that they're serious about ending the war. Moscow weighs in on U.S. approach to resolving Ukraine conflict. Washington's ceasefire plan does not address the roots of the hostilities, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov has said. Ryabkov told the International Affairs magazine in an interview published on Tuesday that we haven't heard any signal from Trump to Kiev about ending the war. What we see so far is an attempt to devise a framework that would first lead to a ceasefire as envisioned by the Americans and then move on to other models and schemes, the diplomat added. Ryabkov said that the plans so far fail to address Moscow's core demand of resolving the root causes of the conflict. That aspect is completely missing and it needs to be overcome, he stated. Bro, Trump White House, take Istanbul Plus, take that deal. And tell Kiev to take that deal and tell the Europeans to zip it and to accept that deal. The United States has the power to do all these things if Trump was serious about getting to peace. Take Istanbul Plus. You should have taken our advice on the Duran 6 months ago, 9 months ago, and just walked away from the entire Project Ukraine on January 21st. After inauguration, you just should have said, you know what? We're out of Project Ukraine, just like you shut down USAID. Same thing. We're out of Project Ukraine. See you later. The Europeans and the UK, they can deal with it now. We're Audi 5000. If Trump had done that back in January, we would not even be talking about Project Ukraine today, or at least not Project Ukraine in relation to the Trump administration. But nope, he wanted to negotiate. He wanted to be the big negotiator, the greatest negotiator in all of history. And so he listened to Kellogg and Waltz and all of these characters and their little ceasefire plans. Ceasefire phase 1, which is an energy infrastructure ceasefire. Ceasefire phase 2, which is a Black Sea ceasefire. And then you have ceasefire phase 3, which is a complete ceasefire. And then you let the neocons and the Europeans and Zelensky, they reframed the narrative and they shifted it to an unconditional ceasefire. And they agree to an unconditional ceasefire. Of course, they agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. So they've shifted the entire narrative. Waltz and Kellogg, they're on board with an unconditional ceasefire. So they're basically on board with Zelensky and the Europeans. And the whole thing has gotten out of hand for the Trump administration. They've lost the entire plot when it comes to Project Ukraine. Yeah, so that is what Ryabkov is basically saying. That's what he's basically saying in this statement. Take Istanbul Plus is what he's telling the Americans. Let's talk about Istanbul Plus and let's wind this thing down. Because if we're not talking about Istanbul Plus, then we're talking about ceasefire stage 1 and ceasefire stage 2 and ceasefire stage 3. It's not going to work. I don't think there's been one day since the energy ceasefire was agreed, ceasefire stage 1, let's call it. I don't think there's been one day where Ukraine has not sent drones into Russian energy infrastructure. And Ukraine, with the help of the collective West media, they say that Russia is hitting their own energy infrastructure in order to blame it on Kiev. Oh my God. So Lavrov, he said that Ukraine is not honoring the energy ceasefire agreement. Kiev has repeatedly attacked Russia's energy infrastructure, despite the truce being in effect, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said. But Lavrov, in his statement that he made yesterday, he said that Russia will continue to honor the agreement. Phase 1 of the ceasefire agreement, which is hands off of the energy infrastructure. Russia said they'll continue to honor this agreement. So that agreement came into force when? March 18th, I believe. March 18th, March 20th. That's a 30-day agreement. Ukraine has not honored the agreement. Not even one day. Russia continues to honor that agreement. So give it another couple of weeks and the 30 days will be up. And Ukraine and the collective West is going to be in big trouble. As far as the Black Sea ceasefire, well, that hasn't even started because the Europeans put a block on that one. And Russia's still being blamed for that. Russia's being blamed for phase 2 of the ceasefire, the Black Sea ceasefire, even though it's the Europeans that refuse to lift sanctions on Russian agricultural banks. Lavrov, he also provided a list to the United States of all of the targets, the energy infrastructure targets, facilities that Ukraine has hit since they agreed to the energy infrastructure ceasefire. By the way, Kiev also provided the Trump administration with a list of targets that Russia has hit. They claim it's energy infrastructure targets, but I'm having my doubts on that. I imagine Zelensky provided a list of just general targets that Russia has hit, and he's going to try to pass those off as energy facilities. But we do have some good news from Lavrov. Lavrov did say, always a diplomat, always a statesman. Lavrov did say that there is progress between the U.S. and Russia. He said that progress is emerging in U.S. talks. The sides are focusing on improving diplomatic ties, according to the Russian foreign minister. And so Lavrov is talking about the opening up of embassies and the resumption of dialogue and the beginning of a normalization of relations between the United States and Russia, a general normalization of relations between the two countries. Man, the path is so easy for Trump. It's so frustrating because it's so freaking easy. Forget about Project Ukraine, focus on normalizing relations with Russia, and bro, you're in the clear. It's just so easy. Oh my God. Oh boy. So Reuters, they put out an article yesterday with the title, Trump officials eye a longer road to Ukraine peace as frustration mounts. Frustration is mounting for the collective West, for the Trump administration, according to Reuters. Why is frustration mounting for the Trump administration? Because Russia is stalling, according to Reuters, because Russia refuses to agree to an unconditional ceasefire. Damn it, Putin. Just agree to an unconditional ceasefire. Just agree to Minsk 3. What is Reuters saying here? And Reuters is putting all the blame on Russia in this article. Reuters says that there is, well, actually, this is a statement from the National Security Council spokesperson from this Reuters article. There is a deep frustration with the Russian government over negotiations. National Security Council spokesperson James Hewitt said, President Trump was clear he will consider imposing secondary sanctions on all oil coming out of Russia if they are not serious about bringing this conflict to a peaceful resolution. That's right, secondary sanctions on Russian oil. No one's going to want to buy Russian oil, right? Yep, place those secondary sanctions, secondary tariffs, call it whatever you want. Place all of that stuff on Russian oil. Oh, by the way, today is Liberation Day, right? Happy Liberation Day, everybody. What are you going to do on this Liberation Day? Trump tariffs take effect for the entire world. What do we eat on Liberation Day? What should we be cooking? Do we cook a turkey? Some stuffing? What exactly do we cook on Liberation Day? How are you going to celebrate Liberation Day? Let me know in the comments down below. Trump is going to place secondary sanctions on Russian oil. How is Russia going to sell that oil if you have secondary sanctions? That oil is just going to pile up and pile up and pile up, and Russia's not going to be able to sell it. Oh boy. Reuters says maximalist demands from Putin. Putin's maximalist demands. European and American intelligence officials and analysts have long warned that Putin is unlikely to negotiate ending the war in Ukraine in good faith, so long as he believes Russia is winning on the battlefield. We're back to this one. If Putin does not accept an unconditional ceasefire, then the collective West is going to have to apply pressure onto Russia. As long as Putin believes that he's winning this conflict, he's never going to agree to an unconditional ceasefire. So we're just going to have to continue to escalate in order to bring Putin to heel. Yep, we're back to this one. This is his Biden talk. Trump is back where Biden was a year ago. So what is driving all of this stupidity from the White House? This failed policy that the White House is now stuck in. What is driving it? Well, Reuters gives us a hint. Reuters says in this article that several of them, including Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and General Keith Kellogg, the administration's Ukraine envoy, are raising questions about the extent to which Putin can be swayed without significant concessions from the US and Europe, particularly over their military operations on the continent. So there you have it. Just like with Bolton, Trump's foreign policy, at least with regards to Ukraine, has been taken over by Waltz and Kellogg and Rubio. The Washington Post is reporting that Waltz's staff, not Waltz, but I believe they said Waltz's staff, was using Gmail to communicate. Gmail. Did you guys catch that? Ay, ay, ay. That is windy. Very windy. I'm having coffee at Putin, not Putin, the toy confectionery by Putin. Very windy, huh? Very windy. I know, it's gonna fly to the beach. Oh boy. All right, so what was I saying? Yeah, Kellogg, Waltz. So Waltz's staff, according to the Washington Post, they were communicating via Gmail, and Waltz's office is denying this, and they're asking the Washington Post for the proof that they were communicating via Gmail. And the Washington Post, at the time of this recording, they have not provided the documents to show that the Waltz staffers were using Gmail to communicate, which is a big no-no. If you think Signal is bad, Gmail, that's really bad. But Washington Post, they have to provide the receipts if they're going to make such claims. Anyway, the Reuters article, they're basically saying that Kellogg and Waltz, they're the ones that are, at least that's the way I'm interpreting it, they're the ones that are driving this Russia is stalling because they did not accept an unconditional ceasefire narrative, at least in the United States. Way, way down in the article, Reuters does say, way down, like towards the end, Reuters does say that Trump has also expressed renewed frustration with Ukraine, accusing Zelensky of trying to back out of the minerals deal. way down. That's what Reuters says. Reuters also came out with an article yesterday reporting that the Senate, they are preparing a resolution to place sanctions on Russia, secondary sanctions on Russian oil. And this is being led by none other than Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal. Richard Blumenthal, Dick Blumenthal, whatever his name is. Yeah, they're putting together a resolution, bipartisan, to get sanctions in place on Russian oil, secondary sanctions on Russian oil. U.S. senators push sanctions if Russia stalls Ukraine peace efforts, according to Reuters. So that's the update there. Stalling for time, that Putin. By the way, Dmitriev, do you want me to get up or it's okay? Dmitriev, who's in charge of foreign investments for Russia, he is making a trip to the United States. He was on a sanctions list, but they're removing him from that sanctions list. And according to CNN, he's going to be making a trip to the U.S., to D.C., and he's going to be meeting with Witkoff, so they can get some business going. You see, Waltz, Kellogg, Rubio, and I think Rubio's just going along with Waltz and Kellogg. I think he sided with Waltz and Kellogg because Rubio's neocon tendencies. So those guys, they want to escalate. They want to punish Russia. They want to force Russia. They want Ukraine to be in a better position militarily so that they can force Russia into an unconditional ceasefire. That's their track. Meanwhile, you have the business guys' track, right? These are the business people, and that's Dmitriev and Witkoff. Witkoff, I'm convinced, I'm 1,000% convinced after listening to him on Tucker Carlson, Witkoff would jump at Istanbul Plus, June 2024. He would jump on it. Witkoff wants to do business. Dmitriev, representing the Russian business side of things, They would love to wrap this up with Istanbul Plus and start doing business with the US. So they're going to meet in DC. Trump's polling numbers are also taking a dive, from what I understand. According to AF Post, 42% of voters now believe Trump is performing worse than expected, a 7-point increase from 35% in February, while 30% say he is exceeding expectations and 27% think he is performing as expected. I'm not sure who conducted this poll. AF Post is not saying in this post on X where this poll came from, but that's interesting. He's got to get past Project Ukraine. If he doesn't get past Project Ukraine, then his entire America First policy just crumbles, it falls apart. And as Russia continues to win, this is becoming Trump's war. The more time passes, the more this becomes Trump's war. The more time passes, the more Russia wins, and the more Trump is going to be blamed for this huge, and it's going to be a huge defeat. This really does remind me of big tech, Trump's approach to big tech in 2016, doesn't it? It reminds me of the COOF and warp speed and all of that, but it also reminds me of 2016, actually 2020, as Trump was running for re-election, and everyone was screaming at Trump about 6 months before the election, 9 months before the election. So many people were screaming at Trump, you gotta take care of big tech, you gotta handle big tech, Facebook, Twitter. At that time it was Jack Dorsey and Twitter. You gotta rein them in, you gotta do something because they are going to sink your campaign, they're gonna sink your re-election. And Trump was saying, no, I'm not gonna do anything, everything is cool, I'm tweeting, all is good, everything is fine. That's what Trump was saying. And he didn't believe that big tech. I actually put it like that so it doesn't, that one though, that one's gonna go. So Trump was saying, nah, everything's gonna be all right. I'm using Twitter effectively and all is good. And sure enough, big tech sunk his re-election. He wasn't listening to people. That's what Project Ukraine reminds me of. So Germany and the EU, well, they're jumping on the unconditional ceasefire. Russia is stalling narrative big time. And the EU, they are now talking about a 17th sanctions package. Stunning and brave. Kaja Kallas says there is an understanding that this is necessary, a 17th sanctions package. You got to do it. We got to have a 17th sanctions package because this is going to be the one. The 17th sanctions package, this is going to be the one that finally sinks Russia. I can feel it. Kaja Kallas can feel it. This is the one. The 17th sanctions package. Lucky number 17. Yeah, if they don't come up with sanctions packages, let me put it to you this way. If they're not dealing with sanctions packages, I don't think they're going to have anything to do with the European Union. What do they do there? What is Kaja Kallas, Ursula? What are the presidents and prime ministers of the EU member states? What are they doing? All they do is Ukraine. If they didn't have all this stuff, they would have nothing to do. They would just be hanging out, drinking coffee, chilling out. They need Ukraine. They need a sanctions package. It keeps them busy. So, number 17, coming soon. Kallas was also giving an interview to, I believe, a French media outlet. And she was talking about NATO. And she said that NATO is going to survive Trump. The reporter asked her, will NATO, as the EU foreign minister, will NATO survive Trump? And Kallas said, absolutely. Absolutely. NATO will survive Trump, EU's top diplomat. The US president earlier threatened not to defend the bloc unless it drastically increases defense spending. Yeah, the EU and NATO, no difference, one and the same. Why not ask the EU foreign minister about NATO? Because it's all the same freaking organization, which is why Russia cannot let Ukraine enter the EU, because there is no difference between the European Union and NATO. If you get in one, you're pretty much de facto in the other. Germany is getting ready for a war with Russia. According to the BBC, Germany decides to leave history in the past and prepare for war. Well, what history, BBC, is Germany leaving in the past? What exactly are we talking about? What history are we talking about, BBC? Just general history? It's so interesting that the UK is all for this, huh? The UK is all for Germany militarizing. What a disgrace, man. I never thought I would see this. Never thought I would see this. I would be reporting on how the UK is encouraging Germany to militarize. Sad, man. It really is sad. Well, we'll see what Russia does. How can Russia allow this to happen? I don't know. I don't know what Russia does. But it's concerning. It is concerning. Let's do an update on France. Le Pen, Politico put out an article with the title, Le Pen could still become French president after. Appeal slated for 2026. According to Politico, the far-right leader Marine Le Pen has been handed a lifeline in her bid to become France's president after a court of appeal said it would issue a decision on her case by summer next year. The dramatic intervention means the National Rally politician, frontrunner to replace Emmanuel Macron in 2027, lives to fight another day after being banned on Monday from running for office. So the appeal is going to come sometime in 2026, in middle to late 2026, which does give her some time to, if she wins the appeal. That's a big if. But if she were to win the appeal, then she could stand as president. She could run for president in 2027. So that's the window for Le Pen that has been cracked open. What else should we talk about? How much time do I have? Okay, I've got some time. I've got some time to discuss some other stories. The Collective West media is talking about the conscription, the Russian conscription of 160,000 men into the Russian military. And they're talking about how this is proof that Putin is on the ropes. Every year we get the same story. Every freaking year we get the same story. Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that? Let me know in the comments down below if you caught that. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, every year, the same story. Russian conscription drive. That means Putin is on the ropes. Just give it another 3 months. He will be defeated. And this story is published by the Collective West media every year, actually twice a year, but every year they're talking about this because Russia always has a conscription drive, a biannual conscription drive. They do this twice a year, every year. And I'm just going to read you from Medusa, which is very anti-Kremlin. And by the way, Medusa needs your support. Support Medusa. The time is now. I wonder why they need your donations. Maybe certain money from certain NGOs in the U.S. went away. I don't know, maybe. Just a guess. But the anti-Kremlin, Medusa, says Putin calls up 160,000 men in largest conscription campaign in 14 years. And Medusa says Russia holds conscription drives twice a year in the spring and the fall. However, this is not to be confused with combat service mobilization. Mandatory military service now applies to men between the ages of 18 and 30 in accordance with new legislation that came into effect last January. So that is what Medusa says. This happens every year. Twice a year, actually. Russia holds conscription drives, not to be confused with combat service mobilization. Of course, the collective West media, they never say that. They just say 160,000 conscription drive. Putin is on the ropes. Those are their titles. Putin is on the ropes, 160,000 conscription drive. By the way, in 2011, the conscription drive was 200,000 in 2011. Just an FYI. So Vucic gave a speech yesterday of Serbia, president of Serbia, and he says that Serbia is about to enter into a military alliance with Hungary, or at least it's moving towards a military alliance with Hungary, which is a good move, I think. Why not? The document on strategic defense cooperation, along with a plan for bilateral military partnership for 2025, was signed by Serbian Defense Minister Bratislav Gašić and his Hungarian counterpart Christoforou Bobrovnički. I hope I pronounced those names correctly. Why don't they just set up Hungary, Serbia, Slovakia, just set up a union, a union military alliance, a union outside of the EU. Get out of the EU, Slovakia, Hungary, and join forces with Serbia, Slovakia, and Hungary. Or better yet, why don't all three of you just join BRICS, man? Just get it over with and join BRICS. That's the way to go. Anyway, that's the story there. And one final topic to discuss, and then I'll get to a clown world, which is some sad news because I thought he was a great actor. Val Kilmer passed away yesterday. I believe he was 65, I want to say. But he passed away yesterday. Val Kilmer, fantastic actor, Top Gun. He was in Batman as well. Heat. He was in Heat. Anyway, rest in peace, Val Kilmer. Let's do a clown world. And today's clown world is a topic that I haven't talked about, but it's a pretty big clown world. And it's getting a lot of media attention. And it's all of the people that are vandalizing Tesla cars in the United States. And not only in the United States, I believe a Tesla dealership was set aflame in Italy, I want to say yesterday. I'm not sure. I believe Italy. But yeah, people are taking their anger out at Elon Musk. They're taking it out on Tesla cars because they're angry with Elon Musk because he has Doge and he wants to save money. He wants to save the U.S. taxpayer money, and people are very upset about that because who wants to save money? Who wants to get rid of government waste? Not me. I want the government to waste and waste and waste. Keep on wasting and spending money. Give that money to Zelensky. Why don't you? Yeah, they're upset with Elon, so they're vandalizing Tesla cars. And yesterday a guy was caught. I believe he was keying a Tesla car, and he was caught, and they videoed the whole thing, and the guy was trying to get out of it, apologizing, trying to get out of it, because now he could face 20 years in prison, a huge fine, and up to 20 years in prison. That is according to Bondi at the Department of Justice. It is a crime, and it is a type of domestic terrorism. Absolutely. You don't go vandalizing other people's property because you don't like the brand that they're driving or that they're wearing or using or whatever. It's just a brand. It's just a brand. You don't have to vandalize their property because of the brand. You don't like the brand? Don't buy the brand. Tell your friends not to buy the brand. But don't go vandalizing. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. Kind of a chilled video for today. It's very windy. And I don't know. I like this spot. I don't know why I like this spot so much. I like this building. I don't know why I like the Limassol Del Mar so much. It's way out of way out of my price range. way out of my price range. But one can dream. One can dream. Anyway, that's the video. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. There is a link to the Duran shop in the description box down below. Take care.